So growing up, I was always enamored with history. Anytime something was named after somebody, I wanted to know who that person was. And growing up, we constantly heard references to El Camino Real, and we heard references to no man's land. And what I found out later is that no man's land is that disputed area after the Louisiana Purchase that Spain laid claim to. After a negotiation with the United States government, they decided to leave it uncontrolled and no one owned it for a period of time. Now, in this part of the country, that attracted your pioneers, your renegades, your rebels, and your outlaws, and that mindset, that demeanor, and that spirit still lives on in the people that call this place home. The Neutral Strip region, also known as No Man's Land, exhibits a culture colored by several pockets of diverse folks who fiercely hold on to their traditions and notions of identity. Sometimes described as a place filled with outlaw culture, the region is better understood as a bastion for cultural groups who wish to find a home where they could preserve a way of life they cherished. The No Man's Land Becoming Louisiana Bicentennial Celebration is a collaborative effort between the 7 parishes who are historically tied to the geographic area of No Man's Land. Beginning in the fall of 2018 and continuing into the fall of 2021, the No Man's Land Bicentennial Committee will jointly promote the culture, history, art, folk life, natural resources, cuisine, attractions, and events of No Man's Land. One of those events is the Kayak Bass Fishing No Man's Land year-long catch photo release Kayak Bass Fishing Challenge.
I'm Linda Curtis Sparks, Director of Sabine Parish Tourist Commission, Toledo Bend Lake Country, and we're excited to be working with Chad Hoover and Kayak Bass Fishing to celebrate No Man's Land in Louisiana. Come visit us and learn about when the western parishes became Louisiana.
For more information on the year-long bicentennial celebration of No Man's Land Becoming Louisiana and the Kayak Bass Fishing No Man's Land Challenge, be sure to check out the Sabine River Tourism website. To start our Louisiana adventure, I decided to head just outside of Alexandria, Louisiana to some borrow pits that make up backwaters of the Red River. Growing up, I fished these borrow pits on a regular basis, and it's been known to hold some big old bass. One thing that you know for sure is whether or not it's got bass, it's definitely gonna have gators, so we'll have to share the water with some toothy critters. All right guys, I'm gonna give you a little quick pro bank fishing tip, and yes, I bank fish a lot because in a lot of places, before I go through the trouble of unloading my gear, I like to do a little bit of a spot check. And we're fishing borrow pits today. So when you're bank fishing, especially over any type of cover or logs or anything like that, you make your cast out there. When you get right to the edge of cover, what you want to do is you want to snatch your lure up and swing it as you're reeling it in a circle until you reel up your slack. Then you never have to worry about getting hung up out there on the grass, and you don't lose expensive lures like this Z-Man chatterbait with Zako trailer. So it's called the snatch and reel in a circle. I'm gonna demonstrate it one more time. So you're reeling it in. It's almost like an around the world technique. Oh, there's fish. Nice. Oh. Always fun. Drag one of these nasty jokers up on the bank. Look at the teeth on that thing. So these dudes right here stink like bad. I'm gonna get my hook back. I hooked him right in the corner of the mouth with that Yamamoto Aiko, which looks like a crawfish. So people say these things don't eat crawfish and they only eat bait fish, and that is not true, because I've gutted a metric ton of these in my life and found crawfish in the belly. So fun sight casting to them though. So Joe, what we're fishing here in Louisiana, we call this a borrow pit.
Where'd the dirt go that they took out of this pit?
Right there. So if you think about it, that levee, just flip it over upside down. So they borrowed the dirt to move it over there. So their definition of borrow is a lot like my family's definition of borrow. They borrow it and you don't ever get it back.
Yeah. Paddling along here is like paddling through a botanic garden. Look at this. This is beautiful.
The Red River is a 230-mile navigable stretch coming from Shreveport to the Mississippi River that was made for commerce that led to numerous oxbows and backwater fishing areas that aren't necessarily accessible to the traditional bass fishermen. It's Louisiana, so we have alligators throughout, but you know, that just tells you there's plenty of fish out there and food source for the fish.
You might ask yourself, why am I holding this Louisiana gator? And the answer to that question is because he's got a $2 tungsten in his mouth, and I'm about to get it back.
You can catch anything that's native to the South of the United States. We've got catfish, we've got brim, crappie, and of course you've got your trophy bass.
The water's this shallow, you don't have to do much with your lure. Slow and plenty of pauses. Let it sit there. There's a tap. All right, there we go. All right. There we go. Sweet. Not as big as we need, but boy, that's a healthy fish. Never been caught. Not a mark on him. Perfect tail, good health, plenty to eat. Now I will tell you one thing, Chad.
What's that?
Every fish I've caught has caught itself.
Oh yeah?
They picked up the bait when I wasn't moving.
Well, I can tell you another thing.
What's that?
All of my fish I caught. This is probably my favorite way to fish, hopping from borrow pit to borrow pit and oxbow to oxbow. When it really comes to what kayak fishing's all about, to me it's this backwater adventure. But tomorrow, we're gonna hit the Cane River right through Natchitoches. See if we can't snatch a bass on the Cane River. So one of the great things about fishing with another angler, and kayak fishing especially, is you can divide and conquer. So I sent Joe one way and I went the other way to see if we could dial in the fish.
Well, we've moved over to the Red Oak Lake Recreation Area. We're going to give this a try. It looks like good water. Lots of fish breaking right here along the bank. Good cover all around the shoreline. So let's give that a shot, see what we can come up with. This water is about the appearance of split pea soup. Makes me hungry just looking at it. Man, I hate to catch a fish off a clothes dryer. If that's the pattern it takes to catch fish, I'm gonna have trouble finding another one on this lake. Well, the craw is not doing it so far. I'll try it on a few more of these cypress trees and work my way down the bank. Meanwhile, let's go over and see how Chad's doing on the Cane River.
All right, guys, we ended up deciding to make a move back up to the town section of Cane Creek Lake. We're literally about 2 miles from downtown Natchitoches. Right now, I'm gonna see if I can't find some bass on some of these docks and cypress trees and lily pads. One of the coolest little rivers running through any town, anywhere in any country is the Cane River running through downtown Natchitoches, Louisiana. The town shows great pride in putting on display their harvest look, their fall look, and then go all out when it comes to the Christmas lights. So if you're ever in the central Louisiana, or Cenlaw as we like to call it, definitely head over to Natchitoches, Louisiana and go drive down Front Street and take out the Christmas lights on the Cane River.
Well, it's been a little slow here. We've finally moved off the main lake, moved into this channel that connects the Red River with the lake. Boy, it's chocolate milk red out there and it's stained green in here. So this is a place where I think the shad will be moving off the river into the lake. And the bass and drum ought to be in here waiting for them. This is a drum. Back before carp were brought into this country, back in the, I think, late 1800s, like around 1880, something like that. This was the closest we had in this country to carp. My grandpa used to live on the Cumberland River a neighbor of his worked trot lines. He would catch drum, load up the wagon, take them into Germantown and sell them to all the Jewish families who would use them then for their traditional cuisine. So they made a pretty good amount of money selling drum back in the day. It's a decent fish to eat, a lot of bones. Hey look, it's a lure tree. Oh, that felt good, but I think it might have been a rock. I'm only in, well, I'm 4 feet of water. It could have been a fish.
Oh, there he is. Nice. So these fish are basically under this bridge and they're hanging right on this shadow line. And, you know, I was dragging a bottom bait, not having any luck. It was off peak, so I just assumed that they would be fishing more, you know, slow presentations. But I see these fish schooling, I see them chasing shad, throwing this little lipless crank, and in two casts, I got 2 fish. So, you know, sometimes you just gotta pay attention to what's going on out there. That guy inhaled that thing. He's like got it all the way down his throat. All right, good morning, guys. We made our way to Lake Charles, Louisiana, and we are down here fishing for redfish. So Joe's geared up, Christy's geared up. We're about to head out into the flats. We're gonna fish some oil field channels, and then we're gonna try to find some fish up in the flats. We're gonna get out there pre-dawn. I like to be out there and watch the world come alive. I'm gonna come up in here. A lot of the gratification that I get is from putting together a plan, doing the research, figuring out the access, developing a route, determining the patterns, and then going out and putting all that together and having success. Now, one of the things that I like to do is method fish. And method fish means I want to catch a fish a particular way. And one of the method fish techniques that I like to use is getting somebody else to catch a fish the way that I want to catch it. And on this particular trip, my #1 goal was to get my wife, Christy, not only her first redfish, but to get her first redfish on a topwater.
I caught a redfish.
What'd you get it on?
A topwater.
Nice.
And it was exciting. I was standing up and it went, hawkacha.
So after paddling into a little bay, I found some fish tailing in a flat. And it would have been easy to selfishly cast in there, hook up, but instead, I knew exactly what I had to do. I waved my wife over, I told her where the fish are, and then kind of like a proud papa watching his son knock a home run at a Little League baseball game, I watched my wife cast a topwater lure in there, make the perfect presentation, have the fish blow up on it, make the perfect hook set, and then the perfect fight. And then she had that perfect smile as she held up her first ever Louisiana marsh redfish. All right, so Christy's gonna head back over there and try to get another one. But man, let me tell you, if nothing else happens on this trip, the whole trip was worth it. She was like a 10-year-old kid hopped up on Mountain Dew and Sweet Tart. She was excited, she was yelling and hooping and hollering. So I think I'll end up with a case of Permagrin for the rest of the day, but I don't wanna not catch any more. So we're gonna head over to this flat where there's some tailing reds in the corner and see if we can't catch a few more before the sun gets up.
So Chad and I have been trying to plan a redfish trip for almost 3 years. It finally worked out. I was so nervous about catching a redfish. I just, I didn't know what it was gonna be like and if I could actually do it. And the adrenaline rush of catching a redfish on topwater was ridiculous. Holy cow, I love it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love it. You got it. Oh, pretty fish. So I threw this spoon, and one of the things I like to do with a spoon is skip it when it hits the water so it looks like a bait fish. This guy's pulling drag. And that joker hit it as soon as the spoon hit the water. It was crazy. God, listen to that line sing. Oh! This guy wants to fight. Oh, man, these things are little bulldogs. Look at that. If you've never redfished before, when you catch them on the spoon like this is what we call spoon feeding them. Whoa, come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Hold on. This is what we call spoon feeding them. Look at that. That right there is what you come to the marshes of Louisiana for. You know, I had these in my backyard for years in the Navy. I was stationed at Corpus Christi in Virginia and Florida, and I really took these fish for granted. Now that I live in Tennessee, it's just a treat to come back home to Louisiana and get down here and chase these swamp donkeys and hooking them up on light tackle and getting back in places in the kayak where nobody else can get is what this is all about, man.
It seems like the spoon is the way to go right now. I've had a bump almost every single time, but let me just tell you, you know, I hooked up into that big redfish over there, and Chad was like, oh, baby, going over around the corner, it's gonna be great. And then he hooked up into one, I'm pretty sure it was bigger than the one I got, so.
Well, I wouldn't read anything into that.
No, I'm not reading anything into it. I mean, Chad Hoover wouldn't make me leave the hot spot just so that he can catch a bigger fish.
He would rather you catch a big fish than him.
Absolutely, 100%.
I don't see him tailing now, but I have earlier, so they haven't gone far.
Joe, I know where the fish are.
Okay, I'll bite. Where?
They're in the water, Joe.
That joke never gets old, and that's probably the 1,000th time I've heard that one. Not everybody can tell a joke. Your delivery was flawless. I'm to the point where every time I nick a blade of grass coming through here, I pretend it's a fish. Just keeps me alert. Kind of a little charge there.
I like it. Maybe I'll start pretending that too.
Well, one of these days it's going to be a fish, and I won't be asleep at the switch when it is.
I really thought I'd be out here really working hard trying to catch some fish, but I've gotten a plethora of Grandpa Joe wisdom. They need to go in a book somewhere, like Aesop's Fables. Teach everybody. Makes for a good day fishing.
Fish feels just like grass. I guess the way to look at it is, hey, if it could be grass or a fish, go ahead and set the hook. It might be a fish. Better to assume it's a fish and set the hook than to assume it's a grass and let the fish swim off. That's my new philosophy of life. Go ahead and assume it's a fish. Oh, wait a minute. I hear Chad.
That means he's not catching fish over there anymore.
Let's be quiet. We may learn something.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Golly, rookie mistake. I had my drag too dang loose. Anyway, so I've been throwing the skitterwalk, the full size, and Christy caught her first fish on the topwater. I gave her a skitterwalk junior. Main reason I did that is when the water gets super slicked out like this, I think too obnoxious a bait doesn't get as much attention. So it obviously worked for her, and I'm not getting any love on the full size skitterwalk. So I'm gonna tie on this junior and see if that makes a difference. And a lot of times just downsizing that bait a little bit when this water's that slicked out will do the trick. So we're about to find out. One of my favorite things about red fishing is it's almost a combination of hunting and fishing. The reason that I say that is there's nothing better than paddling along or slipping in and out of little marsh creeks looking for redfish. You're looking for wakes, you're looking for their tails sticking out of the water when they're feeding, and you're looking for fish activity that indicates that they're there.
I had just paddled through the channel and Joe was coming up behind me, and I knew it was a big fish because the wake was so big chasing my bait and I just couldn't get it to eat. And so I told Joe, cast right behind where I am and it's gonna be there somewhere.
I have to give Christy credit for the assist. She told me right where to cast, lined me up. It ran off to the left towards deeper water, spun me around.
I heard Joe say, fish on. My immediate response was, me too, me too.
Oh, we got a double hookup, and I'm the only one here without a fish. That little bit of wind picked up and just turned them on. Nice.
Great day fishing. These redfish, they're fun.
That's what we came for.
Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, that is why they're called a redfish. but realistically they're more of a gold. They're like a red gold. See that tail, that blue? What that blue means is that they're feeding. When they're feeding, their tail activates. We call these a rat red. Basically mean it's undersized, so they're known as a rat.
I would say that is, what, about 20 inches?
So I assisted Joe in his big fish. Mine happened to be probably not quite half the size, but it was close. And there's a moment of, man, that was my fish. But in life, it's all about the little victories. And so I just want to point out, like, this is my first time that I've ever been red fishing. And Chad has a redfish. Now Joe has one. And I have two. So I'm winning the day. Hello. Some good times. We'll remind him of that later.
There's nothing like after you've been exhausted, you got up 3:45 in the morning, and about noon, you break out your coffee and it's smoking hot.
Oh my gosh, I love it when I can feel him following the lure. Oh my goodness! Yay! Fish on! Again? Yes. I think I can just lip this little guy. I'm pretty sure. And I lost it, but I had it in my hand. I got the hook out. 3 for the day. Big win for me. Yes.
You know, one thing about saltwater fish, no matter what you're catching, they're amazingly strong compared to freshwater fish. Now, rockfish or striped bass or hybrids, they are basically sea fish. Oh, there we go, got a fish. Wow, there's not a lot of give up these big fish. Look at this guy. Here, boy. Woo! Yes. Yeah, that's a decent fish. I like it. That is another good Louisiana redfish. That is about the same size as the first one I caught. Well, as I was saying, a lot of fun. The bait we were catching them on is this right here, Johnson silver minnow. I mean, my grandfather first introduced this to me. An old reliable, been around for generations and catches fish like it always has. And we proved it today. Every fish we've caught after Chrissy's first topwater fish has been on this silver minnow. Love it. Simple works. Great lure. Oh, a lot of fun.
You know, a lot of anglers overcomplicate everything. You know, one of our jobs is to figure out new and better ways to catch a fish. Now, when it comes to redfish, there's a lot of different techniques, but I'll be honest with you, there's about 3 things you really need to come down to Louisiana and whoop up on some of these swamp donkeys. For the most part, grab yourself some spoons, some jig heads, some plastics, and a couple top waters, throw them in a box, shove off into the marsh, and go get bent over. No, that didn't sound good. So Joe, as we were paddling out of that flat, Christy said, "Hey, I'm gonna get in your drift." And I said, "You mean my draft?" She said, No, I'm pretty sure drift is racing and I'm pretty sure draft is football.
Yep, it is.
And I'm pretty sure that there is drifting racing.
There is.
But you don't get in somebody's drift, you get in their draft.
No, that's how you get an NFL player to your team.
When you get behind somebody, that's not the drift. A drift is when you slide around the corner. The draft is when you're behind somebody and you're using their break of the wind to make your car go faster.
You catch my drift?
I think that the draft is when an NFL team picks new players.
I don't know if you know this or not, but in the English language, we have a lot of words that we use the same word for different things. Like, for example, right now you are wrong, but if you do something to someone, you can wrong them. You see how that works? You know what I love about this one in particular? Is that you're wrong on camera.
All I'm saying is miracles happen every day. Because that man right there is still alive.
Well, knowing all that about the outlaws, renegades, and roughnecks in no man's land, it sort of makes sense the way Chad is the way he is. He may be not right in Tennessee, but I think he fits in pretty well in this area.
Now, one of the best things about this trip back to Louisiana was not only coming back to my home state where I enjoy fishing the Cane River and visiting historic Natchitoches, to heading down south to fish Lake Charles. It was about sharing it with the folks that I call family. So if you want the ultimate family experience, if you want to get out in the outdoors and connect, consider bringing your family down here where my family's from, and that's the state of Louisiana. Louisiana, feed your soul.